Good morning. Do you ever feel guilty? What a way to start, right? Do you ever feel guilty? Do you wonder why you feel guilty? Usually it's because of something we've done or said or not done or not said. Yes, usually because of that. It's usually a choice that we've made that maybe we later regret. We have regrets about it in some reason. Sometimes it's purely conjecture in our own minds about what somebody else thinks about what we did or said or how we showed up. We're making it all up in our head. We're thinking that they may be disappointed or maybe they're judging us as horrible people because we sometimes judge ourselves that way, don't we? We sometimes make all that stuff up about ourselves. It's unfortunate that many religions teach us that we are guilty simply because we exist. But I assure you, we do not teach that here. We teach you how to heal those things and to find peace and understanding in your life. My message today is changing guilt to self compassion. If you remember in January, if you were with us, we talked about the four realms or the four kingdoms of consciousness. Guilt lives in kingdom one, which is the victim consciousness. This is where we think life happens to us, that we are a victim of fate or whatever. We've got no choice. There's a lot of them conversations, a lot of blame for everything that happens. They did it. It's their fault that this happened. Guilt can be an emotion that keeps us living in the past because we're focused on the stuff that happened before and we're missing out on the present and the place where possibilities lives because we're focused on that past. When we're operating in realm one, in that kingdom one consciousness, and we all go there from time to time, right? Sometimes multiple times in the day, and we're up and down and all around in all those different kingdoms. But we might be projecting our feelings of guilt onto others when we're there. We might try to manipulate them or control them or gain their sympathy. You might know people who talk about their life and how hard it was in the past. And that's why I'm the way I am today. Do you know anybody like that? Yeah, they make it as an excuse. But what we hear is they haven't done their healing work yet. Ernest Holmes is the author of The Science of Mind, the philosophy that we teach here, and he says we can have no understanding of divine compassion unless we ourselves first exercise compassion. The very judgment by which we judge others becomes self judgment. It is as if the law of life were giving back to each one of us exactly what we have projected into it, as though everything that goes out from us must again return by a law of action and reaction. Now, you may know this as the law of attraction. It's also the law of cause and effect. It's the law of circulation. Ernest tells us that life is a mirror and reflects back to us that which we think into it. Another sign of the victim realm of consciousness is blaming others and avoiding personal responsibility and accountability for our actions. Finding our way out of feeling guilty and like a victim might mean we need to take personal responsibility about our actions and learn from them. As long as we're pushing that blame off on somebody else, we never learn how to correct or heal the mistakes that we've made because we're saying we never made a mistake. The other person is doing that. Our growth happens when we're willing to open our hearts and explore any feelings of unworthiness or fear or self-doubt so that we can bring those into the light and we can begin the healing process. When I was in ministerial school, we did periodic retreats as a class. And we went to Joshua Tree National Park one year. And the purpose of this retreat was to reveal the hidden beliefs and limitations that we might be unaware of. Sound interesting? Oh, yeah. Always is, right? What? So, one of the meditations that we used was very much like the one that Daniel guided us in this morning in our pre service meditation. And as I began to meditate, my inner critic popped up. That ever happened to anybody? Yeah, the inner critic popped up and said, "This is silly. We aren't blocking God's love. We're perfectly fine." Blah, blah, blah. Well, I finally got it to hush, and I was focusing on the slow breathing and imagining, as the guide was instructing us, that I was looking through my heart from the inside out and just breathing into that, focusing on joy and love and freedom. And suddenly, I got a very vivid picture of a little girl wearing bandoleros and holding two giant swords crossed with her legs spread, in a protective position right in front of my heart. I was surprised, to say the least. She looked a little bit like these. Yet she was very familiar to me. So I sat with her for a while and I asked her some questions about why she felt armed protection was necessary. And eventually I convinced her to stand down, that I got us. I got you. I told her that she's safe, I'm safe, and I will protect you from now on. And I found a lot of compassion for that child in that moment. It's still a very vivid memory for me today. I can still clearly see her in her little white shirt and her little red skirt, those little crossed bandoleros and big giant swords bigger than she was. She had big eyes. But she was protecting me. She was protecting me. And that's what our subconscious does. And a lot of times we're not aware of it. We're not aware of those unconscious, subconscious protection mechanisms that we developed perhaps as young children for things we didn't understand, but we found a way to feel safe and comfortable with it. Now, I've checked in with her over the years, particularly if I'm feeling attacked or vulnerable, to make sure she's okay. Make sure she's okay. She's not reaching for those swords anymore, and that we're at peace and we're okay. And this is the type of deeper inner work that we do to transform our past for that better future that we're designing and talking about this year. Sometimes we have to go back to that child protector within us and soothe it and allow it to heal, to make it feel safe and comfortable, so that our hearts can open and reveal and heal any of those past traumas or dramas that we've experienced, so that they no longer continue to rule or run our lives. And just like change, taking responsibility for our lives is part of this new design for living that we're creating for ourselves. It's also why many people shy away from doing the inner work. I don't want to do that. It's much easier to be told what to do, what to think, how to act. That's easier. I don't want to, I want to keep doing the same old patterns that are ingrained, that are easy, that I can put on autopilot, the same habits and so forth. Breaking out of that requires courage. It requires courage to say, yes, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to go within and make these discoveries. What would you do if you were brave? What would you do if you were brave? Do you have the courage to break out of any old victim patterns and create a new design for your life moving forward, where you're free and living more in those higher realms of kingdoms 2 and 3 and even 4. Now, I want to say that feeling guilty, having guilty feelings after a trauma in our lives is normal. I'm not discounting that in any way. That's normal. But where we get into trouble is when we tie that guilt to being permanently wrong or wronged, and then using that to manipulate others, ourselves, our lives, and avoid being responsible. When we recognize these patterns of thinking, we can get out of this trap by telling ourselves a better story. Because guilt can be about the story we tell about what happened, right? And so if we begin to tell a better story about that, then we can begin to heal that guilt. We can begin to take responsibility for our part in it and for our actions, and then turn that into self-compassion and self-love towards ourselves. You may have heard many therapists say that self-compassion is treating ourselves as we would a good friend, being kind and being loving towards ourselves. And that doesn't always happen, does it? That little critic can get up there and just, man, start in. Becoming willing to take personal responsibility for our choices, emotions, and behaviors helps us to remember the power that we have to influence our lives, our environment, our conditions. We have that power. Even when the world suggests that our circumstances create our lives, our limitations. When we choose responsibility, we give up the blame game. I don't know about you, but I do have an individual in my life who just plays that all the time. And, at first you're taken aback by it. I was taken aback by it. But then as I have continued to be around this person and listen, it's incredible to hear it in everything. I mean, everything, simple things like from um, making coffee and having spilt a couple of coffee grounds that, oh, well, I didn't do that. The filter was wrong. That kind of stuff is just like, wow, that's amazing. So hearing that in others allows us to hear that in ourselves and allows us to begin to heal that. We can gain control over our own lives because we begin to recognize where we do slip up, make a mistake, stumble, and we can learn from that. We can grow from that. We can expand from that. So is it time that we drop the guilt? We let go of the blame. We heal the shame. And we put on our big girl or big boy britches. And we start accepting responsibility for what we think, our actions, and the circumstances that we find ourselves in. This is the path of healing, change, and transformation. Our theme of change this month, we've been talking about it all month, means that things have to be different. That's kind of the definition of change, isn't it? Things have to be different if it's going to change. And we find ourselves living, when we find ourselves that, life's not working, at least in one area of it, that's not working the way we want it to, something's got to shift. Something's got to be different. If we want to transform it, it's up to us. It's up to us. Feeling guilty is a negative vibration that attracts more things to feel guilty about. I know our parents probably all said, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. It's kind of like a universal law. You keep thinking those guilty thoughts, I'm going to give you more to feel guilty about. I guess our parents were right. Oh, man. We need to raise our vibration so that we can begin to live our greater yet to be. And that's what we're striving for. Still talking about that upward spiral of life that we're all in and moving through. Taking responsibility and finding compassion for ourselves is the healing path to overcoming any guilt complex that we may have. And there's a paradox in taking responsibility because spiritual law is full of paradoxes, right? We know that. And there's one here too because taking responsibility can make us feel guilty, can it not? Well, particularly when we say the F word. It's my fault. That's one of the F words we don't say. Another one is failure. We don't say failure. There's power in taking responsibility without shame. And that, I think, is the difference in saying it's my fault or taking responsibility for whatever happened. According to an article in Psychology Today, shame is when you believe you are fundamentally flawed, broken, but responsibility is about recognizing your power to choose how you act going forward. So that feels more like not getting stuck in guilt and the past, but how to move forward. How to move forward. Anybody ever done anything that you wish you hadn't done? Once, maybe. It happens all the time. It's part of the human experience, isn't it? Because that's how we learn. That's how we move through life. The key is not the key is to notice when it happens and to fix it. So a lot of times we want to kind of sweep it under the rug rather than bring it up, talk about it, clear it. We change our thinking, we speak our apologies, we learn from those mistakes, and we take actions to repair any damage that may have occurred because of the decision that we made. There's a famous quote that says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom. In other words, the moment between when we experience an event and how we react to it. It's a nanosecond. It's so brief, we hardly notice it most times because our reactions are instantaneous. But if we can get there, that's where we have the conscious choice of choosing something new. That's where our power to change is in that moment. From doing what we've always done, making the same decision, having the same reaction, coming with the same anger or response that we've always done, reaching for the same thing that gives us comfort when we're upset, when we take that nanosecond and go, no, I'm going to act different. I'm going to react different. I'm going to respond this time instead. It's that nanosecond in there when we can choose. And that's how we begin to change. That's how we support the change we wish to see. Making new changes requires spiritual discipline and mental evolution. We talked about that a little bit last week. We can't solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. You've heard that, yes? We also can't design a new life from the same consciousness that got us to where we are right now. We have to keep going in that upward spiral and expanding so that we can keep creating new. Keep creating. That's what we're here to do, is create new and evolve. Developing self-compassion is not letting ourselves off the hook. It's about honesty. It's about honesty without condemnation. Think about that in today's world. It's about responsibility without shame. And it's about kindness towards ourselves as we grow and we make mistakes. And it's the pat on the back we give ourselves when we do it right. It's not weakness, it's spiritual courage to keep rising. Because every time we fall and choose kindness instead of condemnation of ourselves, we open a space for God. We open a space for grace. And we open a space for transformation and change in our lives so that God can continue to lift us up and support us in that upward spiral. Ernest Holmes reminds us that compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in the unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. So the question is, are you brave enough to rise in love and kindness, to see the divinity in yourself and in each other, and to experience God as compassion? Let's look at our spiritual practices this week, and I'm borrowing these today from Don Miguel Ruiz, because I think they're powerful guides to successful living. It's from his book, The Four Agreements. The first is be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity, say only what you mean, and use your words to express truth and love, avoiding gossip and speaking against others. Honor your commitments. In this teaching, we know that our words have power. And so being impeccable with our word is a wonderful value. Don't take anything personally. Recognize that others' actions and words reflect their own reality, not yours. Staying immune to external opinions protects your peace and prevents feelings of guilt. Who do we allow to steal our joy, to steal our peace? Number 3 is don't make assumptions. Clarify, you know what that means, right? Clarify your understanding by asking questions and communicating clearly to prevent misunderstandings, drama, and sadness. Be willing to ask uncomfortable questions. I think that's one of the things that I have learned over my 10, 12 years of ministry is to be comfortable in asking the uncomfortable questions and to recognize in that is our oneness. Because when we let things go, we sweep them under the rug, that they just get worse, don't they? So it's better to be brave, to have the courage to have those uncomfortable conversations, to clean things up. And the last one is always do your best. And I'll add that if we can have the perspective that everybody is just trying to do the best they can with what they've got in that moment, and show grace to each other on our planet. Give the best you can in every moment and avoid self-judgment. Be present. Because I don't know about you, but going on autopilot is where I get into trouble. Living by these 4 agreements helps us to develop personal mastery of our thoughts, our actions, and ultimately our lives. And Oprah Winfrey closes us out today with, we can't become what we need to be by remaining what we are. Right? So this week, may you be brave enough to see and claim your divinity. So it is. So would you join me for prayer? Recognizing in this moment that this is the space of the divine, that space between the breaths, between the heartbeats, that peaceful place within us that is quiet and still. It is where the love and the grace of God is, in, through, and as each one of us as expressions of it. Where God lives, moves, and has its being through us and our lives, through the animated presence that we are, that is God, in, through, and as us. Life itself. And I know that each of us is united in this wholeness, this unity, and divinity that we are, that God is. And not only those of us in the room, but each one joining us online, anyone listening later. and all of those around the world, for we are connected. Even though there's an appearance of separation, there is none. There's one consciousness, and we are in it. We are it. And so I speak my word for and about all of us this day, knowing, claiming, and accepting we are brave, we are courageous to step forward boldly on this adventure of life and create a new design for our lives, the life of our dreams, to accept change, to embrace love and kindness and compassion towards ourselves, and to extend that to our fellow human beings and fellow travelers on this journey. We open our hearts in compassion this morning to anyone that needs compassion today, or love, or peace, or wholeness, or joy, or healing. And just know that in this place of the one, that our thoughts, our words have power. And so we allow that to move forward around our planet, circulating into and through all those in need of any sort. I bless all of those who are serving in our armed forces, knowing that they are guided, guarded, and protected, and that peace is on the horizon. As it is with a grateful heart, filled with thanksgiving, that I release this into the action and activity of law, knowing that this is done. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.